Hello students, good afternoon. Here Sonu sir with a new video of class 7th SS3 or history course. Students, in your course book, open your page number 73. Page number 73, and in that our chapter 6, emergence of new regional kingdoms 3, and our topic is provincial administration of Shivaji. Students, we have discussed about war between Shivaji and Aurangzeb. Somehow Aurangzeb captured Shivaji, seized in a prison, but somehow he escaped from there, and then he made a recapturation of his forts which were rendered to Aurangzeb in fights. And students, he if you see on page number 72, just for a second, in last year's topic of last year's, in page number 72, Shivaji was formally coronated as the king of the Marathas on 6 June 1674. So students, on 6 June 1674, he became the king of Marathas. He declared himself as the sovereign king, as in lavish coronation ceremony held at Raigad, and in Raigad, Maharashtra, he held a celebrated ceremony, and he took the title of Chhatrapati. There he took title of Chhatrapati, as we know him, Chhatrapati Shivaji, meaning paramount sovereign. That means somebody is who is leader of all and having Chhatra and sovereign upon all. So Shivaji fell ill and died in 1680, and after only 6 years he died. 6 years. After 6 years he died in illness, but in 6 years he administered his provinces. If we talk about the provinces of Maratha, basically they ruled southern part of Gujarat, Maharashtra, some part of Karnataka, and some part of Tamil Nadu. This series was the rule of Marathas and provinces of them. In less time of 6 years, he ruled as able and prominent administrator, and some of his policies are recognized as the best policies of administration, and today we are taking as in reading. And now students, we have been discussing previous video of Shivaji's administration, his central administration. Now, what was the administration of states, his provincial administration is in discussion of today. Students, page number 73, your topic, provincial administration. Shivaji divided the kingdom into 3 provinces. Each province was placed under the viceroy. The provinces were further divided into prants. These were further divided into parganas and tarafs. The lowest unit of administration was the village. So tarafs means villages, parganas mean districts, and then prants that means provinces, and so these were under the control of viceroy appointed by Shivaji, and he divided 3 provinces. Then, if we talk about the sources of revenue, land revenue was the main source of income for the states. What were the sources of revenue? Sources of revenue. So students, land revenue was the main source of income of the state. Land assessment was regularly done by the Maratha kings. The state share was fixed at 2/5 of the total produce. So assessment of land, that is, what is assessment? If you see in Hindi, that is Mulyankan. For what? Mulyankan of fertility, assessment of fertility. If there is fertile soil, more fertile soil, revenue will be increased. But somehow 2/5 part of the whole crop and production was taken as revenue and taxes. So do what it was. 2/5 part of total products and crops, production of crops was taken as revenue in Marathas administration. Students, Then we see land was divided into two categories, Swarajya directly under Maratha. So land was also divided, this provincial land was also divided into two categories. That first was Swaraj. Swaraj. That means land controlled directly under Maratha. So directly controlled lands were known as Swaraj. And students, you see, the Mughalai indirectly under Maratha control. So the provinces which were directly controlled in Marathas known as Swaraj. This word Swaraj was firstly considered by Shivaji. You have to know. And except the regions of India, they come from as Mughalai rulers, as Mughalai part, and that is not directly controlled under Maratha control, and that was indirectly under Maratha control. That means Swaraj was being captured area and Mughalai was being area which were not fully captured and somehow was in power of Mughals. That is why the word Mughalai is there. And two kinds of taxes were collected, Chauth and Sardesh Mukhi. Chauth, as you see, Chauth, that means 1/4 part. What is Sardesh Mukhi? We'll see. Chauth was fixed at 1/4 of the total revenue paid by cultivators. If there is any farmer, he or she had to pay 1/4 part of his crop. And then Sardesh Mukhi was fixed at 10% for people living in areas outside the kingdom. And people living outside of the kingdom had to pay only 10% who were somehow in capture of Marathas, and the people of Maratha territories had to pay 1/4 of their crops, and people of outside of the kingdom had to pay 10% of their income. So 10% of the income people for is paid for people of outside, that is called Sarmukhi, Sardesh Mukhi, and Chauth, that is 1/4 part of crops which is given by the farmers and cultivators of territories of Marathas, that was known as Chauth, 1/4 part, and Sardesh Mukhi is 10% of income who was levied on people who were living outside of the Maratha kingdom. It was for them, Sardesh Mukhi, and Chauth was for people of Marathas. Then we see students, military administration. We have seen provincial administration, we have seen central administration. Now we will see what were the military administrations. These were the features of military administration under Shivaji. What was they? Were they a strong and well organized army was maintained by Shivaji. Shivaji had maintained a strong and well organized army. And Shivaji innovated new military tactics such as the art of guerrilla war, and some military war tactics which were applied or introduced by Shivaji, and that was known as guerrilla warfare. Students, it's very important to understand what is guerrilla warfare. Students, if you see in your word body, guerrilla warfare, war by a small group of soldiers who attack the enemy suddenly and swiftly and then flee and hide in the forests and hills. So guerrilla wars always led in forests and hills. If someone is passing from that hills and forest, enemy, so to undermine them and to make attack on them. So it was a trick and tactic of fight that suddenly and swiftly some soldiers who attack the enemy and flee and hide in the forests and hills. So a war by a small group of soldiers. There were some small group of soldiers under Shivaji, and they attacked on enemies suddenly who were passing from hills and forest. And after attack on them, they hide themselves in forest and hills after killing themselves or attacking themselves or making injured themselves. So it was hard to search them in that hilly or mountain areas because they were used to spectacle of there, and that is why the outsiders were in hard situation when the wars broken there and the fights broken there. And if any enemy passes from there for hilly and mountain areas, the team of Shivaji's guerrilla warfare always attacked on them and met them their slaves. And then we see the Senapati was in charge of army, and as we know, the word Senapati, commander of army, was in charge of army, and the Maratha military force included infantry, cavalry, and artillery. So, what is infantry, students? Today I have to explain because it is important to know. Infantry, students, if you see in Hindi, that is Paidal Sena. That is Paidal Sena. And if you see cavalry students, that is horse riding soldiers, that is Ghusawar Sena, soldiers who were riding horses. And then you see artillery is tope, the tops, the artillery is there. So the Maratha military force were included in infantry, cavalry, and artillery. So they had Paidal Sena, Ghusawar Sena, and tope in their army and force. Then Shivaji recruited the soldiers on merit and paid them in cash. Shivaji recruited soldiers on merit of their educational quality or warfare quality and paid cash to them as their quality and skill. Then we see introduced the system of branding of horses and identification of horses, and he was also well interested in branding of horses according to their quality of riding and looking personality. And by that he started identification of soldiers, then which soldiers had which brand of horses. So horses become the identification of soldiers, and branding of horses started by Shivaji. He maintained good horses in his cavalry, and soldiers who were riding that horses were also well trained and identified by that horses. Now students, it was the administration of Shivaji, which we have discussed in video. Now our next topic is successors of Shivaji. So as we know, before his rule he made some war against Aurangzeb and Nizam of Hyderabad. But after becoming the king of emperor of empire of Marathas, he ruled only for 6 years. And in 6 years he made some prominent administrations, policies and rules which carried after him also. And if we talk about his successors, students, successors of Shivaji's were Shivaji died in 1690, leaving the Maratha Empire in a state of chaos and turmoil. So he, after only the 6 years administration of Shivaji, met the state after him in hard situation, and his son Sambhaji succeeded him. And his son was known as Sambhaji succeeded him, became his successor, but was defeated and killed by the Mughals. But he was defeated and killed by the Mughals. His infant son Sahu, then his adopted son Sahu, was held captive for 27 years after the death of Aurangzeb. In 77, Sahu was released and ruled the Maratha kingdom. So Sahu, his infant son or somehow adopted son of Sambhaji, and he imprisoned by. So why we call infant here? Because Sahu was not of more age that time. He was as a boy, and because he was a boy, that is why he wasn't killed by British. Otherwise, like his father Sambhaji, he had also in that position that killing of his was there. But because he was a boy, they somehow kindness against him, on him, and somehow they leave him as a prisoner for 27 years. But after the death of Aurangzeb in 1707, Sahu, released from prison, started the leadership of Marathas and rule of Marathas. And he ruled the Maratha kingdom from 1707 to 1749. So after Shivaji, his grandson Sahu became a prominent ruler of Maratha, and not like his grandfather who ruled only 6 years. Shahu ruled from 1707 to 1749. 1707 to 1749, and that is 42 years. That is 42 years with a very powerful students. The weak successor of Shivaji, however, could not rule for long, and the leadership gradually passed on to the Peshwas. So students, firstly, as we know, Viceroy means king and Peshwa. Peshwa means, you have to understand, like prime minister of this time, and king as president. So king was main as a ruler, but Peshwa was like prime minister, had a prominent place in administration. But after the weak successors of Shahu, Peshwa started overtaking of the rules as king. So after some time, the Peshwa rule started. So students, in this video, students, we have been concluded up to provincial administration, sources of revenue, military administration, and at the same time, successors of Shivaji. Now, in next video, we will read the Peshwas, Balaji Vishwanath, Balaji Rao, Balaji Baji Rao, and third battle of Panipat. By that, we will complete our chapter 6 of this history course. So students, in homework, you have to write about Shahu kingdom and his wars and his work, which is adorable and which is memorable till now, and at the same time a small summary in guerrilla warfare. And in next video, students, we will see the Peshwas, who are the prime ministers of Maratha kingdoms and Maratha kings. We will see in next video. Students, till then, have a nice day. Thank you.